Hey guys, this is Jake with RSP, and today I got a little educational video coming at you. So I'm going to title it Elevate Your Game. But today we're going to be covering competitive tips to make you better in Battlefield. Alright, so this will be a video on how to be efficient in battle as a rally filler, and also how to make your setter's life easier. This role is called many things by many people, but I call it a support player role. Two of the most common wishlist items for a setter is a teammate that they don't have to babysit, and also a teammate who's helpful but doesn't get in their way. So for these tips, I'll have clips corresponding to each of them and they'll play out, and then at the very end I'll come back in and wrap things up. Just a reminder, the average Evony player isn't that quick, so if you can pick up a couple of these tips, you'll be looking great, especially in solo situations like All-Stars, or competitive situations like challenge finals or really important Battlefield. And if you like this content, I'd really appreciate it if you drop a like, a comment, and subscribe. Maybe share this with your friends as well. Also, if you got tips that I didn't mention here, leave them in the comments. I'm sure everyone would love to read them. These aren't unique to me. I've picked these up over the years, and these are just tips that I would have liked to have heard as soon as I started playing Ebony. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, this clip is going to cover being prepared. So this is some stuff you should do and know before you're going into battle. So you should know whether or not you're going to be hiving up, playing a broken hive, or where your spot is in the hive, and any role that your teammates want you to do, or leader wants you to do. Also, you're going to want to do your pre-battlefield checklist. This is like doing your dragon talents, getting your correct castle on, using the right civ treasures over here, correct monarch gear, correct talent, all that stuff. Making sure your duty gens are equipped, making sure your PvP gens are good to go, making sure your sub gens are equipped and they got their gear and they're not dead. It's always good to do this. No one's above doing the basics. And there's a couple more things you could do for your Battlefield checklist. Another big thing is showing up on time. If you're not going to be able to be there on time, you should let your team know ahead of time, every time. Some teams, they don't enter until everyone's available. Some teams, they'll plan around it, and they'll just know that they're going to be light for a little while. But yeah, just communicate with your team, and yeah. Hey, what's up, boys? This is joining rallies and my preset order. And first two, and all. Alright, so as you just saw there, it's Siege Arch Cav. My Siege preset is right in the center of my presets, and then from left to right, it'll go Arch, Cav, Ground, and then Siege, like I said. So, little known fact, if you have all of your presets home, and you hit join on the rally screen, Evony will immediately start you on your leftmost preset. So right there, it's Arch, because, my general is home. And that just so happened to be the Archer rally. That means I just need to hit join and then send. I don't need to hit the preset. I don't need to be looking around for the preset. It's not like this saves like a whole 30 seconds, but it makes filling really quick. I can't really explain it too well. You just have to do it yourself to see. A lot of people have their presets in really funky orders. Maybe they have ground first or cav or something like that, so they're not necessarily able to fill quite quickly like this. But I'd recommend giving it a try. Put the siege in the center and then have arch cav ground. Just give it a try, see what happens. Alright, this is going to be an example of giving your setter priority when speaking, and then also timing your speaking correctly to not interrupt the flow or anything. Siege on Sam. Alright, so as you just saw there, he was going to set an arch. I saw that there is a rally, and I waited for him to finish setting, and I waited maybe half a second, and then I said Siege on Sam. So that didn't get in his way, and I still got the call out there, Obviously, if Sam was to call it out himself, I wouldn't have repeated. I was kind of tasked with calling out Reigns during that battle, so I just didn't want to get in the setter's way, but I still wanted to call it out. This could be used for so many other things, like needing to flip a portal, or if someone ported, or you need to decide in your head if it's worth speaking too. That's a big thing. A lot of people just talk. They just yap, when half of the shit can just be kept in their head. If you want to be competitive, you have to really use some critical thinking. I know it's a game, but you just got to think a little bit. Is this worth speaking? And am I interrupting? And blah, blah, blah. 13 bill, march up. Alright, this is a clip from All Stars, and I go 13 bill march out. So that's pretty much all a setter wants to hear. They want to hear the power, and then if there's a march out, mention it. You don't gotta scream, you don't gotta yell really loud. That's probably the most efficient way to share.
See if you find he is dead.
Clark march out. Alright, so the difference here is that I actually say the keep's name. So the reason it's okay to say its name here is because we're familiar with the keep outside of Battlefield and inside of Battlefield. So we already know what the keep needs to be hit with to kill it. I don't even need to mention the power. I just need to say the dude's name, and then that lets our setter know, like, oh, okay, we found the guy who needs to be hit with Cav. So boom, he's already on it. That works out. This is another way that you can share. You can mention their name, but only do that if you guys are familiar with the keep. Alright, this clip is going to show an example of me calling out for reinforcements. Siege on Jake, sharing cords. So as you just saw there, it was Siege on Jake, sharing cords. Honestly, you don't even need the sharing cords part. That was just in an All-Stars match. Not everyone's quite as competitive, so I just wanted to like make it simple for them to show them where the cords are. Realistically, like I mentioned before, you should be looking at the Alliance War page any single time that reinforcements are needed. It's just the most efficient way to do things. It's the quickest way, gives you the cords right there. You don't need to rely on someone else sharing. It's 2025, you know, get with the times. So I'm of the opinion that doing troop type on player is the most efficient way. It'll tell them the troop type, so in that example it was Siege. They're thinking already, all right, I need a Siege march to reinforce this person with, and they hear the player and they're like, okay, this rally is the real one. They click on it. Another backup alternative could be on Jake with Siege. That sounds more natural, you know, that's easier for people to do. Sometimes I'll default to that as well, like you'll hear it in our videos. When I'm try-harding, quote unquote, when I'm actually trying, I'll do troop type on player. Alright, so in this clip we're looking at a port swap from my perspective. So I see a rally, I call it out, and I get ready to port. I'm looking in the direction of the enemy setter, and when I see the rally line approaching, then I actually port. You don't fall for a scout, you don't fall for a solo, and you just get out of the way. So I had an agreement with my teammate beforehand that I would try to set up port swaps for him because we thought it was funny. Most of the time in battle, you're going to be hard-pressed to actually have enough time to talk about that, in a high-paced battle at least, so you'll just have to plan stuff beforehand sometimes. In this clip, it's going to be showing off porting late. So I notice I have a rally on me. I say Jake porting late. To my team, that lets them know, don't worry about me, focus on counter setting. So, as you can see, they didn't worry about me. I got out, and now watch. There's the counter set right there. I kind of cut away a little quick. That's a good call out and a good plan you can have with your team. They can know that you're a quick player. You can make the call that you know that you're going to get out of the way so that you're not going to be a liability. And that lets your setter focus on counter setting. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it's not groundbreaking, but it's just some stuff that you need to get under your belt and like in your toolbox, you know? It's less words, you know, just Jake porting late. Instead of saying, oh my god, they're on me with Siege, I'll move out of the way, you guys can counter set. See, the time save is so crazy. It might be me thinking too much about this shit, but if you can just save time in Battlefield when talking, if you're not a setter, even if you are a setter, but especially when you're not a setter, it just helps everything run smoother. Alright, so in this clip you're gonna see their teammate is being rallied and he's trying to port swap. Now I come in, and then I actually get the port swap before he can. See, he got a teleport failed, I come in and I bounce the Cav rally out. So you only really do this when you have a bunch of portals, and also if you're dead or too weak to join a rally, this is some strategy that you can do to help your team out. Also, you don't want to do this every single time because you're gonna run your own team's portals down so quickly. So you need to only do this when it matters. And to me and my team, that's on a Cav and a ground kill shot. Alright, what's up guys? This clip is going to be showing off a little baiting technique that we use. So this would only really be used when you're too weak to join rallies on Battlefield. And it could also be used during a throne fight in SVS to bait the enemy into rallying you. So before I explain it, let's just go ahead and try it. Alright, go ahead, Kuma.
Siege in 3, 2, 1. Siege is up.
And now let's pretend someone just set on me. So I would recall, and then bubble up if it's SVS, or port away, and try to set up a port swap, and maybe we can counter set on them. So yeah, this is a nice little way where you can trip up your enemy setter, whether or not you get a port swap off or not, or if you're able to do counter setting, whatever you're able to do because of this, you can trip up your enemy setter sometimes. And they'll fall for it. It's pretty hard not to fall for this, especially in the heat of a battle. You know, the score is super tight right at the end. It's worked for us, it's worked against us. All in all, pretty good little tip. Don't get to use it very often, but we've done it before in some videos. Alright guys, to wrap up the clips, this is going to be an example of 2 things not to do when you're in Battlefield, okay? Alright boys, this last clip covers something that I don't have an example for, because it's a bad thing. Even if I did have an example, I don't really want to use it because, you know, it wouldn't make someone feel good. Anyways, get into it. We're going to talk about repeated callouts in Battlefield. So what do I mean by this? Let's use an example. Let's say there's an arch on Sam. So I would go and I'd call out. I'd say, arch on Sam. And then someone else, a second later, maybe 2 seconds later, they also say arch on Sam. This does nothing. That second call out literally does nothing. It does absolutely zero thing to help. If you're someone who's going to reinforce and you don't react to the first call out, there's no way that your rain is going to settle if you react to the second call out a couple seconds later, you know? And we're assuming that you're playing at a high level, right? Like you're playing in All-Stars or you're playing Challenge Finals or against a really strong team. You need to react to the first call out. And this is a really easy trap to fall into as a player, you know? Everyone does it. I've done it. No one's perfect. All right, and then this last example that I have of something not to do would be backseat driving your setter. All right, so let's look at our setter right here. You're not gonna catch me telling him how to play the game. I'm not gonna be like, set arch on this guy, set siege, here's a siege target, here's an arch target. Or you're not gonna hear me going like, go, 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 launch a rally, go, 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 go. It just doesn't help anything. 9 times out of 10, if you're not the setter, you don't know how to be the setter better than the setter. So you should just not try to backseat them. This also clogs the comms, of course, you know, makes communication harder to hear. It also might just piss off your setter, so you don't want to do that, you know? Alright guys, that may have been a lot to digest, but I have a few takeaways if you're going to pick up anything from this video. Alright, first off, everyone should be using the Alliance War page right over here. It's easier to find targets, easier to find the chords, easier to join the rallies. It's quicker in every single way. I love it. Alright, the second one would be using troop type on player when you're calling out for rains. So when you hear someone call out siege and they're not a setter, we'll use siege for the example, you'll hear siege, you'll instantly be clicking here and looking for the rally. So boom, pretend that Ymir was siege. I already know to send siege here. It saves a couple seconds. All right, and then the inverse of that would be saying on Ymir was siege. So if I'm hearing on Ymir, I'm thinking, all right, well, what's the troop type? It delays it by a couple seconds. Everyone can be better with this. I can be better with it. It takes a lot of practice. It's not as natural to just lead with the troop type on player, but it is more efficient in my opinion. All right, and the last one would be calling out in when you're in a rally. So let's pretend this bay bar is joining, and now I'd say in. So I won't scream in, I won't repeat in like 5 times, I just say in. This lets your setter know that you're settled and you're ready to go. Yeah, so not to beat a dead horse here, but I really tried on this video, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys could leave a like and a comment and share it with your friends. It gives us a lot of motivation when we see a video performing well to keep making more. So yeah, thank you guys, and stay on the lookout for more content like this in the future. Bye guys.